Get ready to sing your heart out. Penn Live Arts is bringing Choir to Philly on Saturday, November 8th, to unite strangers through the power of communal music making. This is your chance to be the performer, singing your way through the greatest songs of all time, from Leonard and Joni to Whitney and Shania. So whether your voice sounds like, or more like, you're invited to this epic sing-along. Get your tickets for November 8th at PennLiveArts.org. Joanna McClinton runs the House in Pennsylvania. She's a Philly Democrat and Speaker of the House of Representatives for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so what that means is she's one of the very few people involved in negotiations over our state budget. That budget, though, was due back on July 1st. But the legislature still hasn't passed it, and the consequences have been dire. So what's going on? It's Wednesday, October 29th. I'm Trinity Nuri, and we're talking politics with Speaker Joanna McClinton. So, Speaker, every year you and your colleagues in Harrisburg pass a budget. And the governor signs it. Sometimes it may be late, but ultimately you have a budget, right? This year, we're at the end of October, and the budget was due July 1st. Still isn't here. That's literally the state's primary job. We're the only state in the country now without an operating budget, and the consequences have been really dire for schools and nonprofits. What's going on? What's the difference this year?
So unfortunately, what we are seeing from Republicans in Harrisburg is what we're seeing from Republicans in Washington, not caring about people, not showing up to do their job, and unfortunately, creating chaos on purpose. There's no good reason as to why we don't have the budget done. They like to tell people, we're not going to raise taxes. We've sent 3 budget proposals. Right. Not one of them, or my granny would say, not near one, would require a tax hike. Not one. So it's unfortunate, but they are just refusing to negotiate in good faith, refusing to finish the job. And as you said, Trinae, people are now starting to feel the pain. School districts, one that I represent, William Penn, they had to borrow money in the beginning of August. I met just recently with, Women Against Abuse. They're going to be laying people off. I've met with the rape crisis centers across the state. They are going to see layoffs and only a hotline will be available. When we think about seniors who get support at their county assistants or senior centers, they're laying people off. Like, this is now not a joke. It was always serious business to us, but we really need the public to reach out to the Senate Republicans in the southeast part of Pennsylvania and those who are leading their caucus in Harrisburg.
And last week, the Republican-led Pennsylvania Senate, they also presented a budget, but it seemed like that was dead on arrival.
That's correct, because this is the second time they've sent us a budget with a spend number that's so low, we can't pay the bills. Now, depending on where you live, you have a rent or you have a mortgage, you got electric or you got gas, you got to have enough money to pay your bills. Like, you're looking at what you owe. And sometimes you call and say, hey, I can give you $50. I can give you $100 next month. But we're too late to start saying, I'm going to give you $50. We need to pay the $100 immediately. And unfortunately, the budget that they sent towards the end of August and the budget that they sent last week are complete non-starters because they don't pay the bills for the schools, for the county assistance offices, for the nonprofits that are already spending the money, anticipating on getting it, or borrowing, looking forward to getting it.
So I did hear you speak recently about the Republicans in the House, and you all were able to compromise on things. Why don't we see that same compromise on the other side in the Senate?
The word I like to use is politricks. I want to say it's politics, but it's tricks. It's the season, trick treat. It's tricks. It's no treats. They are obsessed with trying to get involved in the next election, which in 2026, our governor, Josh Shapiro, is up for re-election. So in many ways, this maneuvering, this created chaos, this manufactured problem of a budget impasse over 115 days is because they are aiming for the governor's office. And this is, again, with the Republican win against their back, having won all these races, and they won the attorney general's race last year after we haven't had a Republican attorney general since, I want to say, 2012. So they won all these races, and now they're aiming for the second floor of the state capitol, which is the governor's office. And while they haven't said so, as I put the dots together and connect the pieces of the puzzle, they believe the longer they hold out on being serious about doing a budget, that it hurts the governor's opportunity to seek re-election in Pennsylvania.
But it's also hurting taxpayers.
And it's hurting their constituents.
Right.
It's not unique to one part of the state. It's hurting people in Westmoreland County. It's hurting people in Indiana County. It's hurting schools everywhere. And it's just what we see Republicans doing in this hour, not caring about anyone from the president on down, like just saying like, who's in the pain? We don't feel it. We don't see it. We don't observe it. It doesn't impact us individually, but it does impact our communities. And it's unfortunate.
I want to go back real quick. The Senate wants the House to pass a budget with no increase in spending. What is wrong with that?
Well, the biggest thing is that our president ran saying he was going to lower costs. The costs are much higher. Like everything that we pay for is actually higher. And what we're trying to do is not only pay the people who work for the state and pay the folks who are contracted with the state, but also keep up for the rising costs of providing education, providing food, you name it, like all the things that the Commonwealth provides and that contracts with agencies, like those costs continue to rise. So like we want to just pay the bills. We're not trying to put away, a whole bunch of money for another opportunity. And the irony is in what's equivalent to our savings account. It's called a rainy day fund. So we can use just a little bit of it to be able to pay our bills for right now and keep working on ways to create new revenues so the state doesn't ever run out of a rainy day fund and is always on top fiscally.
Can we legalize cannabis tomorrow to fill those gaps?
We certainly can. That's one of the revenue streams we sent over to our friends in the Senate earlier this year in June, or it could have been the end of May. It's escaping me in this moment. But there were a few ways that we could make money, right? Like we were never raising people's taxes. We were not doing that. So raising revenue includes legalizing marijuana. It includes being able to regulate skill game machines, which are all over. They're in bars, they're in restaurants, they're in taverns, they're in corner stores. I mean, they pay no taxes and they make a lot of money from people gambling inside of them. That's one of the ways. The third way that we wanted to raise revenue was to increase the minimum wage, because then some people would have more money in their pockets, not need so much from the state, and be able to spend money in the economy.
I see. So I assume that you're involved in these negotiations with your Republican colleagues on the budget. What are those negotiations or discussions like?
Well, it's a whole lot of, I can't do this. We can't do that. And that's not how negotiations work. Negotiations work with, okay, what does it take for us to move this type of bill in your chamber, in your caucus? And if you can't get your whole caucus, because there are many times with a 1-seat majority, I don't have 102 votes. So I have to say, okay, well, what do I need to do? If you're cooking something, you add a little slice of butter to make it taste even better so that you can get more people saying, this is delicious. So you have to do that as you're cooking up negotiations. But what has been happening month after month, week after week, meeting after meeting is I can't do it. And it's like, no, let's pull out our stick of butter, put it in the pan. It's going to make everything better. So maybe you don't get your whole caucus, but we have 23 Democrats in the state Senate who want to put up the votes. So it's like Republican leaders in the Senate, you won't have your 27 because maybe they think this is too much for schools. Those kids don't need all that money. All right, that's their perspective. But put that butter in the pan and bring your Democrats across the aisle. Most of the bills that we do are, in fact, bipartisan. We're middle of the road with our majority. It's very slim. It's the slimmest in the nation right now. We are very middle of the road and we're practical. We're not trying to slam dunk. We're not trying to do threes. We're trying to say, let's get a layup for the people of Pennsylvania.
All right, I was trying to think of something to go with your cooking analogy with the butter, but okay, you're all in the kitchen, you need all the ingredients to really put this meal together, and that's the budget. So they are possibly vying for the governor's seat. What else do Republicans want?
Well, they definitely want to be back in charge in the state house, but that hasn't been the main crux. They've been really just kind of taking a shot at the governor. Suddenly, the state treasurer who just won for reelection last year also,
Oh, you're talking about Republican State Treasurer Stacey Garrity.
and the auditor, they're all Republicans, is saying like, oh, well, people can borrow money. I'll make sure they're loaned since the state legislature can't be involved. Interestingly enough, just a couple weeks after she announced she's running for governor. So, I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but as I said, I've been putting the pieces of the puzzle together to kind of follow what is the holdup? Why are they doing this? It's like a game to them, and they're real people impacted by this game they're playing. It's very dangerous.
You represent West Philly, Southwest, Yaden, Darby. What are you seeing from your constituents during this time right now? Because there's also the federal government shutdown in the background of all this.
Yes, and it's not so much in the background. It's like in the front, right? Because people are scared. Everybody's worried about their health care, what it's going to look like, what things are going to cost. And now that we're about to be into the holiday season, folks are like, oh, well, my daughter gets SNAP, or my granddaughter gets WIC, or my neighbor gets, food assistance. And now they're not going to have that money. Like, what are we going to do? Like, what we see brewing is a crisis that's been created, that's intentional, that's cruel, that is inhumane. It is sickening. It's disgusting to me. And I absolutely hate it. I had a meeting, to your point, in Darby Borough, Lower Delco, with my leadership there, the leaders of the council. They started sharing things with me on how, the school district hasn't been able to cut the grass. And I'm telling them the state hasn't given them the money to do any of the things that they have to do, in addition to cutting the grass to keep the community looking good. It's unfortunate. It's like small things that are becoming big problems. It's not fair. They had to cite the district because everything is grown up. And I'm telling them, like, yeah, they have a contract, but they had to borrow money to make their payroll. Like, they're in a deficit now. Like, this is not a joke. It's causing real challenges everywhere.
So do you think Republican lawmakers see that, though? Like, I'm sure they see communities suffering right now. And is it really like, do they not understand Philadelphia or, the South Pennsylvania region? Like, what is it?
Well, I want to be able to simplify it as easy as I can. And all I can come up with is they just don't care. It's not a Philadelphia issue. It's not unique to us. These are challenges in Western Pennsylvania. Coming down here, just got off the phone with a constituent in Erie who's in the leadership of their NAACP, talking about what they're going through. This is all over the state. It's not unique to the part of the state where we live. It's all over the state. And these Republicans, they don't care.
We have more with Speaker McClinton after the break. Another part of all of this, there was a lot of drama around funding for SEPTA. It felt insecure, it felt rushed, and maybe like temporary in ways. So I'm wondering, is there like a long-term plan for SEPTA? Because I know SEPTA depends on state funds.
Absolutely. And that's another area where we've been getting super pushback. At first they kept saying, well, we can't get to a budget agreement because we're not funding transit. And then someone filed a lawsuit. A judge decided, oh, you've got to find emergency money for SEPTA. So for right now and for next year, for 2 full years, it's not a crisis, because a judge made a decision locally. Judge Sierra Street said, oh, no, this isn't right. You got to restore services. You can't raise all the fares. People can't afford that. All right, so that's a temporary thing. And one of the things we were getting in June, in July, in the beginning of August was, oh, well, you all want to fund transit so badly. We don't have the money to fund transit. That's no longer an issue. That's now temporarily off the table. But to get to your point, we definitely need to fund transit. And in fact, in the 3 full years that I've had the gavel, we've sent 5 different proposals to the state Senate on how we can fund transit, because it's not a SEPTA thing. It's a Pittsburgh regional transit thing. It's all of the agencies around the state who depend on public dollars. They need to fix their trains. We see what's going on with our regional rails right now. Like, it's serious. So that is another issue that I would say is looming. Is there a plan? We have one. We have to get consensus from our friends in the other chamber. And to everybody listening and watching, you can get involved by calling these folks, by emailing them, by asking for a meeting with them. If you're represented by a Republican in the Senate caucus, hey, if you're in Northeast Philly, if you're in Bucks County, if you're in Montgomery County, what are you doing about this and how can I help lift your voice, because I mean, we have to call folks out, but we also have to let them know, you represent me. You're up there for me. I gave you that job. I'm a part of your team of bosses.
Interesting. I also read that there's a bill to scale back the size of the legislature. It costs $400 million a year to run Harrisburg. Do you support the bill to reduce the number of legislatures?
My concern is, if I'm serving, and all of us are, it's not unique to me, 64,000 neighbors, and my neighbors in West Philly say, you're always in Southwest, and my neighbors in Yaden say, you're always in Darby, and my neighbors in Darby say, you're always in Yaden, and we don't see you, and you can't make it to our events, and your office is here, and your office is there, is we shouldn't be talking about less government services. We should be talking about more, and we should certainly focus on making sure that we're not spending excess dollars to have us do our jobs. And that's one of the problems with this budget impasse. We're spending a lot of money to keep bringing people to Harrisburg, to pay their mileage, going back and forth, to pay their lodging, going back and forth, with no budget. So like, it literally has to stop, because not only are we not paying our current bills, but we're wasting money. So I don't support reducing the legislature, because we're in an hour, and especially it's even more worse in rural Pennsylvania, when you have to drive an hour to an office to get your property tax rent rebate done. Like, that's something those of us who live down here, we can't even comprehend. I'm always like, from the furthest point of my district, if you're driving, it takes you 20 minutes to get to 60th and Walnut. It takes you 10 to get to the Yaden Library every Thursday. But if you're on SEPTA, of course, it takes a little bit longer. But in rural Pennsylvania, they drive an hour or an hour and a half to go to their state rep's office or their state senator's office, because of they have so many counties and it's spread out just to get to that 64,000 number that they represent and serve. So I don't support reducing it, because we still need to serve the people and be there and be available and accessible.
My next question is, let's say there is a budget and it gets passed. What happens? Because you all have to think about next year's budget.
Absolutely. So the budget deadline is June 30th. That's why we need to get it done, because we're way over time. And it is time for the administration, for the Governor Shapiro's team, to start talking about the budget address for next February. Before we know it, it'll be the first Tuesday in February, where he's in the chamber. I'm behind him with our Lieutenant Governor, and he's saying, and here's my plan for 2026. So yes, it needs to get done. It needs to get behind us. And as soon as it's passed, the money will start flowing to the counties so that they can pay the organizations, the agencies. It'll start flowing to the school districts. So the quicker we can get it done, I say get it behind us. Every day I say, today's a good day for us to do the budget. All I need to do is give my members 6 hours. We can all be in the Capitol, because Erie is the farthest place, and it takes them 6 hours to drive down. We are ready, willing, and able to just get up there and finish the job.
All right, Speaker, I want to talk about you a little bit more, how you came to have one of the most powerful jobs in Pennsylvania. You were a radio person like me. You got your start at 105.3 WDAS as an intern. Tell me about that experience.
Absolutely. So in high school, I was at a conference, and they announced that they were going to be filling the spots of the Friday night gospel jams, which was actually on the AM side, 1480, which no longer is in existence with WDAS. And so my mom and I were talking, and she's like, oh, you should try out. So I went to the tryouts. I did a little, read into the microphone, put the headphones on, and we'll call you back. And then I got a call back, and I got the opportunity to do it. At the time, I was in the 11th grade. So I did it 11th grade, 12th grade, and my first year at LaSalle. And it was amazing. Every Friday, I would get to the radio station around 6:30. We were on air from 7 to 8. We did new breaking gospel music. We did a little talk segment where we would take callers, and our friends would call, and people from our church and from the community would call. It was really exciting. And it was only once a week. So it wasn't the pressure that, you have when it's your career and they have to keep creating content and engaging people. But it helped break me out of my shell. And the exciting thing was, when we weren't on the radio from 7 to 8 on a Friday, we got to go all around the city to concerts, at the Leah Chorus Center, at the time to the Miriam Theater, seeing stage plays, giving out promos, giving out T-shirts, giving out tickets. It was very, very fun.
That's amazing. And then that led you into this career, into politics. First woman to be the Speaker of the House of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Does that come with challenges?
Oh, without a doubt. Every time there's a first, there's extra scrutiny, there's extra pressure. There's, oh, will she do it as good as man X or man Y? Or will she raise as much money as this one? Without a doubt. But it's a real privilege, an honor, and it's so humbling to me every single day that my colleagues have put their faith and trust in me to do this role. And most importantly, it is my goal that women and girls who are currently growing into their womanhood will say, oh, I'm going to be in the government because I see what she's doing and I'm going to go higher than her. I'm going to be a woman governor. I'm going to be a woman United States Senator from Pennsylvania because we haven't had either. And so my goal is to look forward. I'm in this moment and season today, but whenever the time comes up that I'm handing that gavel over to the next woman.
Will you run for governor?
Oh, governor, girl, I'm trying to get a budget done. I'm trying to serve my neighborhood. I am not in the point of running for other offices, but hopefully my constituents, if the time all aligns, they'll allow me to be doing this job for a little bit longer.
And just thinking about your leadership right now, thinking about the people that you do serve, thinking about the government shutdown, no budget, what do you think you could do more of right now?
Well, the biggest key is what we can do collaboratively. A lot of times we entrust people with responsibilities and we say, oh, they got it. Well, this is an hour where we need everybody's voices collectively. What we need to do is to make sure that you are calling the Senate Republican leadership. You don't know who to call, you can call my office. We'll give you the numbers. We'll tell you where they are. We'll tell you who they are. Look up and see who represents you and find out who is holding up this budget. We have a lot of things on social media. I'm Rep. McClinton on everything. Threads, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm going to still call it Twitter. Everything. You want to know who to call, reach out to my office. We have to lift up our voices so that we can get this work done together.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Speaker McClinton.
Thank you, Trinae.
As we were putting this episode to bed on Tuesday night, there were glimpses of hope from the state capitol with legislative leaders, according to reports, negotiating a deal with the governor on a budget. Now, we'll be following this story, so stay tuned for the latest in our Friday News Roundup and also in the Hey Philly newsletter. That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. Let us know what you've been thinking about in terms of PA not having a state budget yet. Also, make sure you share this episode with a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly is talking about. And don't forget, y'all, you can support the show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Philly neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.